It has been a year since the tragic passing of Shanquella Robinson, a bright and bubbly 25-year-old woman from Charlotte, who was brutally taken from this world during a girls' trip to Cabo in October of 2022. The details of her death are disturbing, with an autopsy report revealing a broken neck and severed spine. Now, the FBI has launched an investigation into her untimely demise as more questions arise. But behind the headlines and crime scene photos lies a deeper, more complex story. Shanquella was not just a beautiful person on the outside, but also radiated a beautiful spirit within. Raised by her loving parents, Bernard and Salamandra, she excelled academically at Winston-Salem State University and later became a successful entrepreneur, running a beauty and hair braiding business called Exquisite Kids in her hometown. Despite her success, Shanquella made time for herself and indulged in her other passion, travel. From Miami to Vegas to Jamaica, she was always exploring new destinations. And in October of 2022, she set off for San Jose del Cabo, Mexico. But little did she know that this trip would be her last. Who doesn't love a good holiday? It's the ultimate escape from reality, a chance to unwind and let go. That's exactly what Shanquella had in mind when she decided to take a break from her busy life as a successful young entrepreneur. After all, she deserved it. She was only in her mid-20s, with her whole future ahead of her. But little did anyone know that this trip to Mexico with her friends would end in tragedy. Within 24 hours of arriving at the luxurious resort, Shanquella would be dead, murdered in a brutal and horrifying manner. Her mother, Salamandra, remembered their last conversation before Shanquella headed off on her adventure. She seemed so excited, eager to try out the local tacos and boasting about the amazing chef they had at the resort. Little did Salamandra know that those would be the last words she ever spoke to her daughter. Welcome to No Tears for Black Girls, crafted by renowned writer John Reedberg and brought to life by the talented Samantha Paul. Listen in, subscribe, or tap in on the Alive podcast app for exclusive content. Have a case or topic you want us to delve into? Head to our website, notearsforblackgirls.com, or send us an email at notearsforblackgirls@gmail.com. Shortly after arriving, Salamandra received a distressing call from one of Shanquella's friends. They claimed that she was seriously ill, likely suffering from alcohol poisoning. This came as a shock to Salamandra. While she knew her daughter enjoyed a drink now and then, getting so drunk that she needed hospitalization was completely out of character for her. The doctor who arrived on the scene immediately recognized the severity of Shanquella's condition. Alcohol poisoning is no joke. It can quickly turn deadly if left untreated. But instead of letting her receive proper medical care, Shanquella's friends made the baffling decision to keep her at the resort, citing the need for cash payment. Salamandra couldn't understand why they wouldn't just use Shanquella's insurance to cover the costs. But as she anxiously awaited news from these so-called friends, little did she realize what nefarious schemes they had in store for Shanquella. Salamandra's nerves were frayed as she fretted over her daughter, Shanquella. She couldn't fathom why none of their friends would allow the doctors to take her to the hospital. Surely they had enough money among them to cover the costs. After an agonizing wait, Salamandra's phone finally rang, and she eagerly answered it, hoping for good news. But what she heard next sent shivers down her spine and shook her to her very core. Despite the group's initial protests, the doctor had called for an ambulance, and it had rushed to the scene. But by then, it was too late for Shanquella. Despite the medical team's valiant efforts, there was nothing they could do to save her. They told me she was responsive at first, but then she just passed away. The way the doctor said Shanquella was so cold, emotionless even, and all I could do was stand there in shock and heartache because I couldn't even be there with my child. She was 2,000 miles away. In the days following Shanquella's death, the family received a police report citing heart failure as the cause. It was a devastating blow, but at least they had some closure on how their beloved daughter had died. As any parent would be, Salamandra was filled with unbearable grief at the thought of her daughter suffering in her final moments. When Hans' friends returned home from their trip to Mexico, they were met with little attention from Hans' grieving family. But amidst this period of mourning, Salamandra received a strange and unexpected phone call that left her reeling. Someone claiming to have been involved in a fight with Shanquella called and abruptly hung up without giving any further details. It was a disturbing and confusing call that only added more questions to an already devastating situation. The family had always been skeptical of the alcohol poisoning story, and this phone call only deepened their doubts. How could Salamandra, a responsible and caring mother, have possibly poisoned herself like that? It seemed there was more to Shanquella's death in Mexico than anyone knew, and the truth may never be fully uncovered. Salamandra was done staying quiet. Her sorrow and despair began to morph into rage, demanding answers. Would she ever learn the truth? When Shanquella's friends gathered for a visit, Salamandra saw her chance to confront them and uncover the mystery behind her daughter's death. It was the least they could do for the grieving mother. Amidst tears, they claimed there had been no fight. They even talked with me about picking out funeral attire. We discussed colors and plans, and now they sit here, saying they picked out their own outfits for the funeral. It seemed like Salamandra would never get the closure she desperately sought. Maybe Shanquella's passing, and the circumstances surrounding it, would always remain a hazy enigma for the bereaved mother. The only option left was to move on and focus on laying her beloved daughter to rest. But just days before the funeral, something happened that shattered Salamandra to her core. In fact, it went completely against everything Shanquella's friends and the original police investigation had told her. When Nate called and shared the autopsy results, everything clicked into place. Shock and devastation consumed Salamandra as she learned that her daughter did not die from heart failure as previously believed. No, the truth was far more violent and terrifying. The autopsy report revealed that Shanquella suffered from severe spinal cord injuries and a dislocated neck. This was not something that could be brushed off as an innocent holiday mishap. There was no mention of alcohol or cardiac arrest in the report. These injuries pointed towards a much more subversive cause of death, and Salamandra was determined to uncover exactly what transpired in Mexico. Salamandra was in disbelief. Her stomach churned with the thought. She knew she had to confront her friends for the truth about what happened to Shanquella during that fateful holiday trip. With a heavy heart, she approached the friend who lived closest and braced herself for another fabricated story. But instead, to her surprise, the friend gave a raw and open account of the brutal events that afternoon. Shanquella's death was not from alcohol poisoning as previously believed, but from a violent attack on her neck. As Salamandra listened to this heartbreaking truth from her friend's mouth, she felt like she had been punched in the gut. Despite reading the autopsy report and understanding how her daughter died, hearing it from someone else made it all too real. But the tragedy didn't end there. A cell phone video surfaced online, capturing Shanquella being viciously beaten, while others stood by and made cruel comments. It shattered Salamandra and her husband's hearts to see their daughter, who was never one to fight, desperately trying to defend herself. The most haunting part of the video were the off-camera voices telling Shanquella, "It's not much," as if justifying their actions and dismissing her suffering. 6 people were present at the scene, but no one intervened or stopped the senseless violence. Who gave them the right to take a life? The parents were forced to relive their daughter's final moments through that footage, feeling her pain and fear as if it were their own. The brutality of it all was unfathomable. There was no reason given for why Shanquella and the other woman were fighting, or why no one stepped in to help. It tore at the parents' hearts to see their daughter so distressed and terrified in her last moments. As they struggled to make sense of it all, something positive began to emerge from this dark and horrific event: a cry for justice for Shanquella. Salamandra wanted the world to see the video and for those responsible to be held accountable. People around the world who had seen the shocking video began demanding answers and searching for the truth about what happened to that poor young woman in Mexico. The collective voices joined in with Salamandra's, hoping that authorities would finally listen and properly investigate this heinous crime. The video of the attack went viral, spreading like wildfire across the internet. As more people saw it, they understood that Shanquella did not deserve to die in such a brutal way, and this fueled their anger and determination to speak out. The story gained unstoppable momentum and seemed to be everywhere. Surely this would force Mexican authorities to take action and seek justice. The movement continued to grow, with thousands of posts on social media saying her name, discussing the case, and offering messages of hope for Shanquella's family. It warmed Salamandra's heart to see how connected people were with her daughter's tragic story and how they wanted to make a difference and find answers. During Shanquella's funeral, hundreds showed up in a powerful display of support. "I never thought I'd be burying my child," Salamandra said through tears. As Shanquella's body arrived at the funeral home in the United States, her father stood over her and vowed to find justice for his daughter. The turnout at her funeral was a testament to her popularity and impact on those around her. It was a painful yet beautiful gathering, as loved ones gathered to mourn the loss of such a bright and promising young woman. But seeking answers would prove to be a difficult task. With the crime occurring in another country, there were legal barriers and obstacles that needed to be overcome. The Mexican prosecutors charged the suspect with femicide, but many felt it was not enough. The charge did not change the fact that this was a homicide case, with all the same evidence and investigation required for any murder. The extradition process for the suspect had been arduous and uncertain, casting doubt on whether justice would ever be served. Yet, Salamandra, Shanquella's mother, remained resolute in her fight for her daughter's justice. But even if the extradition succeeded, there was no guarantee of punishment for the killer. The complex legal system posed numerous obstacles when it came to extraditing individuals to other countries. It seemed unjust that someone could escape accountability simply by being in a different country. Despite these complications, Salamandra never faltered in her pursuit of justice for her daughter's tragic death. The Mexican warrant held little weight in the United States, leaving room for the killer to evade consequences. However, not only were Mexican authorities investigating this case, but the FBI Charlotte field office also took notice of this highly publicized crime. They quickly launched their own investigation, much to Salamandra's relief, as it promised a speedier resolution to the case and brought the murderer to justice. Salamandra dreamed of Shanquella's assailant returning to Mexico and facing a sentence that matched the gravity of their crime, whether it be 20, 30, or even 40 years. With time passing, a major development emerged in the case. A letter addressed to the President of the United States revealed the identity of the prime suspect. Dejanay Jackson, one of Shanquella's friends who had accompanied her on the ill-fated trip to Mexico, was identified by a hotel staff member who recognized her from a viral video. This revelation provided crucial details to piece together the puzzle. According to witnesses, Jackson had organized and planned the trip. Following Shanquella's death, she appeared remarkably composed and carefree, an atypical reaction for someone who had just witnessed such a heinous act. The hotel assistant also recalled an icy embrace from Jackson, followed by callous laughter as she walked away. Chilling details indeed. Despite these shocking revelations, Shanquella's case remains open, and no one has been officially charged with murder. Understandably, this is incredibly frustrating for her parents. However, they maintain faith in the justice system and believe that truth will ultimately prevail. With Mexican authorities leading the investigation from their country and the FBI conducting their own inquiry in the U.S., it is only a matter of time until justice is served. Thank you for listening to No Tears for Black Girls. Please download the Alive Podcast app and follow us on all major podcast platforms to stay updated with our latest content. If there is a topic or true crime case that you would like us to cover, please send us an email at notearsforblackgirls@gmail.com or visit our website, notearsforblackgirls.com, and leave us a voice message through our contact page. And always remember, stay loved, stay blessed, and be safe.